Good morning, everyone. I'm Tynesia Boyea-Robinson, but you can call me Ty. I'm the president and CEO of CapEQ. CapEQ is an impact investing and advisory firm. We provide strategy at the intersection of environmental, social, and governance, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I'm really excited to be back at Big Bang. I lived in Dallas for about a decade, and almost every year once Tony met me, I had something to do with Big Bang. And I moved about a year ago, so I'm happy to be back, see happy faces. And then Pegasus Park is just amazing. It wasn't here, and as full of the glory as it was when I was here before. And so when I think about this panel, and I'm excited to connect you to everyone here, I could never do their bios justice, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I'm excited about this panel, and then turn it over to them to share their wisdom and brilliance with you. So ecosystem building is challenging, but it has such a phenomenal impact. And for so long, too many organizations try to do work in silos. And one of the things that CapEQ actually does when we work with individuals and investors is to show them how to build things in a way that actually not just do well, but they do well by doing good. And the only way you can do that is if you partner with different organizations in the community, and if you do that in a way that has aligned incentives, aligned values, but also aligned timelines. And you also have to do that in a way that is mindful that while the work is hard up front, the impact on the back end is unparalleled. And so my second book is actually about this and sharing those goals and resources. And I want to say thank you to Tony Fleo for actually offering it here at the conference. And so without further ado, I'm going to tell you who you're going to hear from today. So first we have Pamela Nelson. She is the founder and CEO of Bricane, and an amazing, phenomenal woman who will share so much more about that. We also have Ben Magill, who's the Associate Vice Chancellor of Economic Opportunity at Dallas College. Yes? Correct. All those words means he's really important. And then we have Tom Luce, who's the CEO of Biotech Initiatives at Lyda Hill. But if anyone knows Tom Luce, that is like one of 800 jobs he has. And so we're happy that he's going to be here to share a little bit more. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to share a little bit about themselves and what attracted them to this work. And let's start with you, Ben.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Again, Ben Magill, Associate Vice Chancellor of Economic Opportunity at Dallas College. I think that just means I'm a glutton for punishment. That's where that long title comes from. Willing to do a bunch of stuff, right? So I've been in economic and workforce development in North Texas for the last about 12 years. And from that point, 12 years ago, I think working in innovation-based economic development, always hoped and dreamed for a collaboration like this in North Texas, both physically, all of these resources being gathered in one place, but also the collaboration you mentioned. So just really motivated by that, excited about that, and excited to see what we can do as Dallas College.
And Tom, we're going to go to you next. And interestingly enough, Ben talked about motivation and dreams of everything working together, but you have had your hands on so many different collaborations that have had impact. So I'd love to hear not only what actually attracted you to this work, but how it compares to other collaboratives you've seen.
Well, I think this is an amazing catalyst, Pegasus Park, for collaboration among the entire community to further diversify the Texas economy to include all people. And that's what attracted me to it. I saw a vision by Lyda Hill and her team to build upon efforts that had gone before us to build the biotech industry, but what was missing was a place, a catalyst, where people could come together and we could have what we call creative collisions. That is to say, people could meet in the halls, meet in the conference rooms, brainstorm with each other, all of which leads to collaboration. So I was intrigued by the possibility. I know I started working on public policy early in the 70s, and the fossil fuel industry at that time was 28% of the GDP of the state of Texas. Today it's roughly 7%. That is how much we've diversified our economy. However, that diversification has not included enough people to sustain living wage jobs for all. And I see biotech as an important initiative to be able to improve the wage structure for more and more people in our community to have wonderful jobs with a brilliant future ahead of them in the biotech space. And as Ben knows, and Ben was a leader of, there was a great collaboration put together of all the community colleges in the region, letters of support from virtually everybody in the region that secured for us an EDA Good Jobs Challenge Grant, which is roughly $9 million. Dallas College is taking the lead to create job opportunities to enter the biotech space that do not require college degrees. In other words, people tend to think of, and young people tend to think of, I have to have a PhD or I have to have a Master's of Science or something to enter the biotech space, which is clearly an industry of the future. But we did a survey of major employers in the region and found that there was an anticipated need for 12,000 people with good paying jobs that did not require a college degree. So Ben and his team have launched a 3-year planning effort. We're working with the city of Dallas. Lynn McBee's involved in this effort. It's a great collaboration of people throughout the region to be able to provide training and a way for young people to enter the biotech space, which has a tremendous future ahead of it. So I saw an equity component, a component for growth and diversification of the economy. I was the founder of an organization called Texas 2036, and we project that the population of our state will be 41 million people by 2036. We've got to provide jobs and good paying jobs for that growth if we're going to maintain our standard of living for all. And so that's what attracted me to this Pegasus Park endeavor. And what Lyda asked me to do, I was not the visionary that created Pegasus Park. That was Lyda Hill. I was asked to come in to help build a ecosystem outside of Pegasus Park. How do we ensure that the vision of Pegasus Park becoming a catalyst for the region occurs? I don't know if you saw it in the paper, but several months ago there was an announcement that there was a new collaboration between the University of Texas at Dallas and the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School to build a biomedical engineering building. That is unheard of in the academic world, to have two institutions come together on a joint project. That's what we need more of, is more collaboration among our intellectual capital, which we have plenty in this area, whether it's our community college system, SMU, TCU, University of Texas at Dallas, UTA. I could go on and on. We've got the intellectual capital. We've got the venture capital. There's no reason we cannot be the third coast for biotech. But what's going to hold us back is workforce development if we don't get after it right now and include more people, because the growth is there, the workforce needs are great, and that's the way the industry will expand.
Well, Tom, I'm going to come back to you about that funding, and I'm going to pass it to Pamela soon. But one of the things that, Tom is potentially modest about is, in order to make ecosystems work, you have to have what's called a neutral convener. And it's a party, or whether it's an individual or a set of institutions, where people believe that they're there around the table in service of a large goal of the North Star that's going to benefit the broader community. And it's no surprise that, Tom, you were tapped to do that because people believe in you and your leadership. So I want to go a little bit deeper on workforce development, and I'm kind of cheating a bit because Pamela and I had a chance to talk ahead of time. But when you think about the workforce, what is needed for your business to thrive, and is that what attracted you to this project?
It's a little bit of both. as you said, I am the founder of Burkane, and we are a life science company, and we help companies, biotech companies, to bring their products to market by doing clinical trials. And so we've been focusing a lot on diversity, of course, because that's where we've needed to expand. And so what attracted me was primarily because we've been in business for 20 years. And as Tom was saying, it's an ecosystem. We didn't find that ecosystem here in order to be able to do work. And so we were always working with companies outside of this area. And so a lot of times our employees, our teams, they were also outside of this area. But having the ecosystem here, being able to support companies here, it helps to build the communities, and people can stay here in their communities. They don't have to, a lot of people know, in biotech, people are always jumping on planes to have to go outside to find work, and not necessarily to find work, but to perform the work. And now that is right here, it's local. And so when companies are able to hire and work in their communities, the communities are able to grow. And then therefore, when they are able to have better jobs, better income, their health is also better as well. So that builds that ecosystem.
Thanks, Pamela. When I think about, so Tom, let's go back to you for a little bit. We talked about, you were saying an EDA grant, and you mentioned venture capital, and Lyda Hill came in with money. So what's the uniqueness about this funding model, and how are they all braided together to make this ecosystem work?
Well, I think number one, Lyda Hill is unique in and of herself in that she's an investor who then turns her investment profits into nonprofit gifts, and that in and of itself is unique. And she's a member of the Giving Pledge, and she's demonstrated her generosity to the community. What is also unique about Pegasus Park and is part of the ecosystem building process is that a second part of the vision for Pegasus Park, in addition to being a catalyst for the biotech industry per se, was to provide Class A office space for nonprofits at an affordable rate, and that allows them to learn more about the biotech industry. For instance, Social Venture Partners is one of the tenants that has space here. There's 26 nonprofits. But for instance, an organization like Commit that's involved in Dallas Independent School District, they will become a part of the effort to recruit high school students to go into the biotech industry. So again, this is one place where we gather nonprofits and we gather startups, accelerators in the biotech space, so young people can see the opportunities available to them. Dallas didn't have affordable lab space for startups until biolabs opened, and I might add, and I'm sure y'all will see biolabs at some point if you haven't already, but it was projected based upon the opening of biolabs in Los Angeles that the first year biolabs would be 15% leased. It's now 50% leased in less than a year. And we're already contemplating adding 100,000 square feet of lab space. So the need is there, the opportunity is there. Texas can compete with Boston, with the Research Triangle, with Seattle, with Silicon Valley. We can diversify this economy greatly by building this industry.
Ty, can I say something?
Sure.
I want to say something about the EDA funding. The Economic Development Administration under Department of Commerce has been around for a long time, funded a lot of economic development projects around the country. What was really unique about this Good Jobs Challenge was that two things. One was, of course, how will you as a region use this money to help create jobs, get people into jobs, right? What was new about this one was, a response to what we saw in terms of inequities in a lot of communities that was there before the pandemic, but that the pandemic sort of blew the door off, right? And really put the magnifying glass to, which was around the country, and it's the same case in Dallas, overwhelmingly communities of color are employed in the service sector. So when the pandemic hit, service sector wiped out. So EDA said, how do you specifically, intentionally reach out to those communities, help them get trained for jobs that have some resiliency, right, and some insulation from future economic shocks like COVID. So that was a really unique opportunity and something that we really wanted to jump on and thread that with all the activity that's happening in the biotech life sciences sector. And so that's what we're going to do.
Did you want to add something about funding too?
Well, I just wanted to say that being a company that is a life science company and being able to have an opportunity to partner with Dallas College on it to be able to provide those jobs. Because the other thing is, like, you can go to school, but if there's nowhere to go and get the training, and have that hands-on training, then it becomes a problem. And so we are just excited to be able to partner, to be able to help mentor, as well as bring about that knowledge that helps people to stay, again, in their community and build their community, because it is such a, having seen this over the years where you have the knowledge, you want to be able to utilize the skills, but you can't get hired because you don't have any type of internship. There's no one to really take that risk. They want you to be ready to go to work as soon as you get out of school. And there's not, we haven't had that opportunity for people to be able to build that education up, build their training skills up to where now they can be a big support to the companies that they go to work for. So we're glad, and like I said, I hope others join to be able to be a training ground, as we would say, for people to be able to support their communities and this work.
Now, Pam, you're a for-profit business, right?
We're for-profit.
You're for-profit, right?
We're for-profit.
So this
You're
is not
for
about,
it,
but when you think about why you started your business, you were telling me it was about health equity. Can you share a little bit more about just your company and what drove you to start it?
Okay, so I mean, it's obvious. I'm a Black female, and so I'm from this community, of this underserved community, and so for years, having health literacy concerns where we did not have the knowledge about health, and then because of disparities and not having access to health care at early ages, just created a cycle of things happening and not being able to have all the resources that you need. And so I would love to say we all were able to go to high school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job. I had a scenic route to get to that point. And so what normally was taking people 2 years to go to school, because of all the things that were in my, I'm just going to say roadblocks, a 2-year degree takes 4 years, a 4-year degree takes 6 years. And then, as you can see, yes, I have my PhD, but it's not because I went straight through. It was a 20-year journey. And so, and like you said, it's not that everybody has to go that route, but it is, when you are a person of color, we don't always have that easy path that most people have. We don't have someone to help support us. So like I said, that was the purpose of me starting, and then being able to train and help others. When I first got into, we're in clinical research. When I first started in clinical research, I had never heard of the industry at all or knew about all the opportunities. And I was I had been a nurse for 20 years before I ever, got into this industry. And with that, it was like, oh my gosh, I can help other people by training, and then finding out there wasn't nobody to train anybody. I learned by, trial and example, and, I hate to talk about it sometimes. It's like all the things I'm probably messed up. But being able to put together training programs to help others, and then being willing to accept them into the company, that was what led me to this. And so, and that's why I like now that there's this formal opportunities, formal trainings for people to get into the work and be able to give back. And that's how we do a lot of support. We do a lot of training programs to help give back to the community.
You know, it's interesting when I listen to your story, Pam, it reminds me of the closing remarks from yesterday's session from Byron when he was talking about his mother helping him navigate systems because they weren't very clear, and if she wasn't a teacher, you wouldn't be able to know what the next step is. And it sounds like what Pegasus Park is doing is systematizing what the journey is that you had to figure out yourself. And so the next Pam will get there a little faster. But for you, we stand on the shoulders, right? But
Yeah,
for
that's
you,
right.
we wouldn't have known it was possible. And so I'd love to go to you, Ben, because Pamela already is a success story, but what has been the impact you've seen in the community overall just since this work has been started?
Well, I think, the impact so far has just been the momentum and the energy and the willingness to collaborate. When this grant opportunity came up, we didn't have to convince many people, anyone. We reached out and everybody said, yes, this makes sense, sign me up. And the momentum continues, and we're figuring out, ever since the award was announced, other people are wanting to get involved, employers are wanting to get involved, other higher education institutions, and so it's exciting to innovation, as we all know, sometimes is about timing, right? And it just feels like the timing is just spot on right now. There's just so much momentum across all organizations and partners, and we're just going to try to keep it going.
I think in response to what you said, and a lot of us have talked about, one of the unique things about this Good Jobs Challenge grant is that it has a lot of wraparound services on how do we help students shorten that path, how do we meet their immediate financial urgency, how do we create internships, how do we create pathways to get them into the workforce ready to work, but then have a route for them to move up in the workforce. And that's what excites us about this opportunity, is the ability to get people an entry, but an entry with pathways upward. And that's what creates the racial equity and that we need in our community, is the ability to have a pathway up when you have roadblocks, when you have obstacles. And so that's an exciting prospect. And I think, when you look at the growth potential of the biotech industry, for instance, Dallas-Fort Worth leads the nation in percentage growth of biotech opportunities in the last 3 years. And so now we started from a lower base than Boston or Silicon Valley, but we're increasing at a rapid pace. And we're seeing collaboration across the state to build the industry. We have the mayors of Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, all working together to get a new federal agency called ARPA-H to the state of Texas. And that's the first time those 4 cities have collaborated on a statewide effort like that. So again, we're seeing more collaboration. We're seeing more collaboration among institutions. UTA is anxious to expand on the workforce development side. They've been in contact with Ben. UTD does a lot of workforce development. We're seeing finally that people understand the limitation on growth in Texas is workforce development. Workforce development, workforce development. I can't repeat it too often, because right now we have 500,000 unemployed people and we have 1,500,000 unfilled jobs. And the 500,000 are not qualified for the 1,500,000 jobs that exist. And when we grow to 41 million people, there's going to be even more job demands. But all that's dependent upon workforce development. And workforce development is dependent upon collaboration of academic institutions, venture capital, the private sector. We all have to come together in our own self-interest to make sure that we have the workforce of the future.
Everyone's like, Tom set us up. All right. I'm gonna let you, Ben. Your mic was kind of inching up first, so I'll let you do it, and then Pam, you jump in.
I just wanted to quickly say that I think everybody knows that Texas and North Texas have been creating jobs like crazy. We're a job creation engine. But I think one of the things that, you know, I don't want to say post-pandemic, but currently, given what we've gone through recently, there's a new focus on what is a good job, right? And I think we're something that's coming out of this collaborative is working with employers to say, you know, let's use a design thinking method here. Like, why am I not able to find the talent? Why can I not keep people employed? You know, and I think some of that is exploring as an employer. I can create a job, but can I offer a good job that includes benefits, that has flexibility, that addresses the wraparound support services that a lot of folks need? And so I think there's a lot of learning that's going to happen on both sides.
Okay, Pam, you go. You get to
He
jump
set
in.
it up very well for me.
No, Pam, you took her.
No,
brilliant.
he really
got
didn't,
it.
because I think it just leads into what he was saying. When you talk about a good job, I think a lot of our job descriptions, because we try to go back and help companies look at, you have a job description, because we do some staffing as well. And so when I'm looking at this position, you got a master's degree requirement for a job that really takes a high school degree. And so I think that's why some of the things that we have in place when we talk about what is that good job, we need people to also go back and look at what are the true skills that are required to do the work, and that may be vocational or some of those things that we're saying wrap around. I mean, you know, I look at, we have a nursing shortage. It takes a 4-year degree to work in the hospital now for some, you know, for the way our hospitals are set up. But we don't need a 4-year degree to empty a bedpan. And I'm not trying to, you know, be funny or to limit that knowledge, but I think we really have to go back and look at what are some of those requirements and pay people living wages for the work that they can do, but then also look at what we've got in place or what are those requirements. And I think that will help alleviate some of that and then take away some of the barriers for past lifestyles for now what people are doing, and that will help increase that opportunity for people to work.
See, Pam dropped knowledge. She still did, right? And actually what you said, Pam, reminds me of a project that CapEQ worked on called Talent Rewire. So if you look up talentrewire.org, it has what's called How Do You Be an Opportunity Employer? And it goes through the traditional barriers that oftentimes for-profit employers in service of finding great talent actually filters out opportunities from people who might come from different backgrounds, might have had some barriers growing up, might have had some challenges and choice points along the way. And actually Walmart funded that work. And Walmart was actually CapEQ's first client. And our very first work with them was actually increasing minimum wage and allowing people so they increased minimum wage on their own without being pushed from a policy standpoint based on the work we did with them. And they also started providing opportunities for folks to earn college credit while they were working. So this was in, 10 years ago when we launched. And as that work started to expand, they started to expand their services behind the scenes. And they actually started providing some of those wraparound supports before COVID from the opioid crisis. So they saw that their workforce kept turning over and over. And when you think about the type of talent they attract, it usually is the first job, the early job, the only job someone can get. And they could no longer allow, a blind eye towards challenges that were not unique to one individual. They saw that trend line across. And so that kind of work, that the concept of helping employers really address wraparound supports, it's not just to, be nice and great. It's because it affects the way you do your work. And that, Pam, on her own, basically dropped the knowledge of what all that research was done from Walmart Foundation a couple years ago. We should just ask you.
When you live it, you know it.
And there you go. That's lived experience right there. Tom, are you trying to inch in? I see you are you excited? You want to come in? You're trying to say something?
No. I just get excited about this opportunity that we all have as a community, and it just requires enormous collaboration, and that's not easy often among academic institutions. But as Ben said, we were able to put together a collaboration of Dallas College, Collin County College, Tarrant College, UTA, I mean, we put together a collaboration of intellectual capital that's an important first step, because what's so important is not only the entry-level job, but the pathways upward. And we need to work on both, but it's a and situation. We need the right entry points, and then we need the right upward mobility. And job descriptions are the bane of my existence as they currently exist, because they are not skill-based. They do not articulate what a student needs to accomplish. And we have so much work to do when it comes to job descriptions, and that's why we're so keen to reach out at the top level of companies to say, what are you going to do as a company to provide a real description of the skills you need that can be filled within a year, within 6 months. We went to the Research Triangle. We saw they're providing entry-level job training within 6 months. That's a whole lot different than 2 years or 1 year. And so you got to get people into the industry. We're putting them in the right industry. The growth's going to be there. And it's a great, successful career ahead for a lot of people. But we've got to get them into the industry in the first place.
We were talking about those, systematizing things earlier, and I think, from an HR perspective, it's not that, companies don't want to hire somebody based on skills, but sometimes they don't know how to do that, right? It's been, well, that's that bachelor's degree filter, and then we'll start talking if you make it through that. So one of the things we're going to do, speaking of collaborations and all of this, is we're working with United Way. We're going to do this skills-based hiring academy for employers to help, walk them through how do you hire somebody based on skills. And so it's a learning process all the way around.
So, blue sky. This project has been amazingly successful. What is it that you'd like to see from it in the next couple of years? Maybe we'll start with you, Pam.
So, being in the life science space, and one of the things I would really love to see is the continuation of the innovation that we're having, and bringing in more people into the community. And I really believe that the ability to eradicate a lot of rare diseases and the diseases that impact communities of color, that knowledge is here. And so that is what I'd like to see the path for in the next 2 years.
Ben?
I think Pam said it earlier. I think my dream would be that it doesn't take 20 years, right, to get to that point. That after 3 years, yes, we've gotten a bunch of people trained and got them into jobs in biotech and life sciences, but the sustainability aspect is we've made the system a lot easier to navigate, a lot more connected, more collaborative, so that we can move people through the system, and people can achieve their own goals a lot faster and a lot easier.
I've got even bluer skies outlook about the potential for Pegasus Park. I really think, and I hope, within the next 2 to 3 years, you'll see an expansion of Pegasus Park. There is already the capacity to add 1 million square feet of space according to the current zoning allowed. We need support from the city to make that happen, but I think that can happen. We can expand rapidly. One of the things that historically has happened in our community, which is a tremendous loss, for instance, UT Southwestern alone has created 80 startups that felt like they needed to move to the East Coast or West Coast. Well, if we just keep those companies here, think of the jobs we're creating. And so Pegasus Park has the potential to be that catalyst that can hold and attract, based upon the intellectual capital that exists in our region, create and hold those jobs here in North Texas. That would be a tremendous victory for our community and for all people of color and all people of all colors. if we can expand that industry in that way. And we have the potential here at Pegasus. Lyda Hill's fortunate to have 2 real estate partners, Montgomery Street Partners and Justin Small. So we've got the real estate side covered. Lyda Hill's provided capital and philanthropic capital and investment capital. We've got the place for creative collisions. So I see no reason why this industry can't take off. And I think it's building the foundation over the next 2 to 3 years, but the potential over the next 10 years is pretty extraordinary.
I'll be back in 10 years because, Dallas does it big, and I believe you, Tom. So in this room, there are investors, employers, people who maybe they care about, transportation. Maybe they care about other things other than biotech. What lessons that you have learned from this work would you encourage them as you move forward? So Ben, why don't we start with you? What lessons would you tell the audience if they're trying to do something like this?
Well, we've talked a lot about it, collaboration. It's also just, I think, for me, it's leading with, assuming positive intent, right? And also leading with being willing to do something, being willing to do the work and show everybody that, you're leading with, I trust that you're trying to do something great. I want to do that too. Let's do it together. Obviously, there are hiccups along the way, as we know, but I don't think we get to those places without leaning into what's possible.
What about you, Pam?
I would say collaboration, yes, and collaboration means sitting at the table together, and that you bring all people together at that table, and they have an equal chair. It's how sometimes you have at the dinner table, you have the adult table, and you've got the children table. You want everybody at the same table. And people who have a seat, that they pull up a chair for somebody else. And then I think that's how we can make a difference.
I heard that in the room. Wow. What about you, Tom?
I can't add anything to what Ben to the dinner table discussion. But I see a lot of people in here that can join the dinner table, so I hope you'll join in and eat the food.
That's a good mic drop. So I just want to thank our panelists for their brilliance, their lived experience, for pushing towards this. And I just want to leave with you that this model is what's going to make our economy work. We talk about building a regenerative economy. It's one where we are all valued and we invest in each other in a way that's valuable. So thank you so much. Thank you, panelists. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Tony.
Stay there just 1 second. Thank you folks so much. I asked Donovan if I could sneak in here for a second because I simply cannot have Tom Luce on his stage without saying a few words. I don't know, for some of the young folks that are here, if you know the legacy of this man that is sitting here, but he has had presidential appointments. He has been appointed by governors. He has given a lifetime of service to this community. When I first moved to Dallas 43 years ago, I was reading this man's name in the newspaper. We are grateful. We thank you for being with us today and for all of the work that you have done on behalf of each of us here. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tony.